She helped a stranger but missed her interview, not knowing he was a CEO who'd hire her. Rain pricked the morning like tiny needles as the cold drizzle soaked through Maya Bennett's thin coat. She stood on a crowded Manhattan sidewalk with her arm up, begging a yellow cab to stop, while tires hissed over puddles and sent dirty water spraying. "Come on, please," she muttered, eyes flicking to her watch. 8:27 a.m., less than 30 minutes to get to Pierce Industries for the biggest interview she'd ever landed. A black sedan slowed at the curb and Hope leapt, but a man in a sharp suit slipped in ahead of her before she could take 2 steps. Maya let out a tight breath and checked her phone. The rideshare app showed nothing nearby. The subway would be a gamble now. Too many stops, too many chances to stall. "Are you kidding me?" she groaned, pulse rising as she did the math on how fast her window was closing. She was seconds from sprinting toward the nearest bus stop when a ripple of panic moved through the crowd. A man in a charcoal suit staggered near a lamppost, one hand pressed to his chest. His dark, neatly cut hair hung damp with rain. He looked like someone with money and authority, but the way he swayed made him seem fragile, like a tower about to tip. Then he crumpled. Maya's breath snagged. For a heartbeat she froze, watching people stream past him without so much as a glance. Too busy, too numb, or assuming someone else would help. Her fingers tightened around her bag strap. If she stopped now, she'd be late, maybe ruin her chance. This interview was a light, at the end of years of long nights and side jobs. A cab rolled toward her, and for an instant she pivoted, ready to flag it, when a thin, painful gasp from the fallen man cut through the street noise. She spun back, without thinking, and ran to him, kneeling on the wet concrete. "Sir, can you hear me?" His breathing came shallow and fast, his forehead slick with sweat despite the chill. Up close, she saw a strong jaw and a line between his brows, like he wasn't used to feeling weak. "Help," he whispered, barely there. Maya caught his wrist and searched for a pulse. Faint, but there. "You're going to be okay," she said, mostly to keep herself steady. She fumbled for her phone and punched 911. A man in his 30s collapsed on 5th, near East 42nd. "He's conscious but weak, maybe heart-related. Please send an ambulance." "Help is on the way," the operator said. Maya exhaled and knew she couldn't leave him. She slid off her coat and tucked it under his head to keep the cold from stealing more strength. His eyes fluttered open, piercing blue meeting hers, confused and searching. "Just leave me," he muttered. She snorted. "Yeah, that's not happening." People hurried by, steps slapping the pavement, eyes fixed ahead. If she ran now, she might still make it, but the minutes stretched and the city hummed like nothing was wrong. Maya held his wrist and counted the weak but steady thumps under her fingers until sirens painted red and blue on the gray morning. The ambulance pulled up and 2 paramedics hustled over. "He just collapsed," Maya said, stepping back as they lifted him onto a stretcher. "I think it might be his heart." The older medic nodded. "Good thing you stayed. This could have gone worse." Relief swept through her, then crashed. 8:56 a.m. She was supposed to be inside the Pierce building 5 minutes ago. Her chest sank like someone had clipped her wings. She bolted the moment they wheeled him away. Maya flew up the steps of Pierce Industries and shoved through the revolving doors, lungs burning. The lobby gleamed, marble floors, soaring ceilings, a massive chandelier pouring warm light across sleek metal and glass. The receptionist, composed in a navy blazer, barely looked up as Maya hurried over, dripping and breathless. I'm here for the executive assistant interview," she said, gripping the counter. Her jacket was gone, hair plastered to her forehead, shoes squeaking on the polished floor. The receptionist finally met her eyes, one brow lifting. "Your name?" "Maya Bennett." Keys tapped, pause held. The woman's expression stayed cool. "I'm sorry, Miss Bennett. The interviews ended 30 minutes ago." Maya's stomach pitched. "No, please," she stammered. "I had an emergency." She hesitated and then told the truth. "I helped a man who collapsed outside. I couldn't just leave him." The receptionist gave a polite, closed-lipped smile, the kind that dismisses rather than comforts. "I understand, but Mr. Lawson, our hiring manager, was very clear about punctuality. Final candidates have already been selected. Heat and shame flashed through Maya, mixing with panic. Please just let me speak with him. 1 minute, that's all. The receptionist weighed whether it was worth the hassle, sighed, and picked up the phone. Mr. Lawson? A candidate, Ms. Bennett. Mr. Slot, but is asking for a moment. A clip reply came through. Understood, the woman said. Hanging up, he'll see you briefly. Maya followed down a long corridor, each step heavy with dread. Inside a minimalist office, Trent Lawson, head of HR, sat behind a glass desk. Early 40s, pressed suit, efficient eyes that said his time mattered. Ms. Bennett, he said, motioning to a chair. You missed your interview. Maya sat, steadying her breath. Yes, sir. A man collapsed on the street. I stayed with him until the paramedics arrived. I know being late is on me, but I didn't take it lightly. Lawson's fingers tapped the desk. Admirable, he said, but if you already worked here and face an urgent deadline, then chose to help a stranger, what would happen? Maya paused. I would still help, but I'd communicate fast and find a solution with my team. He nodded, unreadable. This role demands absolute reliability. Our executives make billion-dollar decisions. If an assistant isn't there, it can cost us millions. He exhaled, firm. We need someone who shows up no matter what. The words hit like cold water. So that's it? She asked, voice small. I lost my chance because I helped someone? A flicker of softness passed through his gaze, but his tone didn't move. We had hundreds of applicants. Everyone made sacrifices. You made the moral choice, just not the right one for this company. Maya swallowed the ache. Thank you for your time, she said, standing. He nodded and turned back to his screen. She drifted out in a daze. This morning felt like the beginning of everything. Years of night classes, 2 jobs, and stubborn hope had led here. Now she stood in the same lobby, back at zero. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the city felt colder. Maya hugged her damp shirt tight and stared up at the tower she dreamed of entering for real. Doubt pricked. Had she messed up? Her thumb hovered over her phone, ready to reopen the job boards, when it buzzed with an unknown number. She answered. Is this Maya Bennett? A woman asked. Yes. Riverside Medical Center. The man you helped regain consciousness. He asked to see you. Maya's breath caught. She looked from the Pierce building to the busy street. That door had closed, but a new one had swung open, and curiosity tugged hard. A clean, sharp scent hung in the hospital air as Maya walked to the automatic doors, footsteps echoing off shiny tiles. Nurses moved with purpose. Doctors spoke in low voices. Monitors beeped somewhere out of sight. Maya went straight to the front desk. Hi, someone called. A patient asked for me. He collapsed on 5th this morning. The receptionist checked the screen. Mr. Pierce. Room 412, down the hall to your right. Maya nodded and followed the corridor, nerves ticking. What was this? A quick thank you? A stranger wanted to know who stayed? She took a breath and knocked lightly before stepping in. The man from the sidewalk sat propped in bed. His suit jacket was gone, but the crisp white shirt remained, sleeves rolled to reveal strong forearms. And 4 was taped to his skin, yet he looked composed. When he glanced up, those blue eyes were clear and assessing. You came, he said, voice smoother than she expected, with quiet authority underneath. Maya shrugged. You asked. He studied her a second, then gestured to the chair. Please. She sat, feeling oddly formal in a room that smelled like antiseptic. Silence stretched before he spoke again. I assume you missed your interview because of me. Not an apology, just a fact. Maya exhaled. Yeah, but I don't regret it. His eyebrows lifted, like he wasn't used to that answer. Why? She tilted her head, choosing her words. Because a person matters more than a meeting. I can chase another job. If you died, there wouldn't be a second chance. He didn't respond right away, simply watched her with a guarded look. She wondered if she'd overstepped. Then he chuckled, low and warm, unexpected. Not many people think that way. Hard to believe, she said. His gaze shadowed like something old tugged at him. Most would have kept walking. You didn't. She shifted, a little self-conscious under the attention. It didn't feel like a choice. He tapped the blanket, thoughtful, then changed course. Have you eaten? Maya blinked. What? Let me thank you properly. Dinner? She glanced at the floor. Are you even allowed real food? His mouth twitched. They're discharging me in a few hours. Unsure, she bit her lip. Even in a hospital bed, he radiated power. But she was curious. All right, she said, but only if you promise not to collapse again. He smirked. I'll try my best. And just like that, the track of her day and maybe her life shifted. She expected a diner or a quiet cafe, something close and simple. Instead, hours later, she stepped into one of the most exclusive restaurants in Manhattan, all warm chandeliers, polished floors, and white tablecloths so crisp they seemed to hum. Maya sat straighter than usual, fingertips tracing the edge of a fine china plate. She felt out of place among hushed voices and tailored jackets. Across from her, he looked entirely at home. He had traded Tate for a tailored black suit, hair slicked back, a steady calm in his posture, the air of someone who makes decisions others follow. She sipped water, aware of side glances from other tables. So, she said lightly, do you bring everyone who saves you to spots like this? His mouth curved. Just you. She laughed softly. I feel honored. The waiter appeared with a bottle of wine. The man ordered for both of them with an easy grace that made the gap between their worlds feel vivid. When they were alone again, he leaned in a little. Before today, what were you hoping for? What was that interview the first step toward? Maya laced her fingers, deciding to be honest. Finance, she said. I put myself through school with 2 jobs and night classes. The plan was to start as an assistant, prove myself, climb the ladder. Not glamorous, but I want to build something stable, something I can be proud of. He watched her closely. You paid your own way? She nodded. No trust fund, no connections, just loans and stubbornness. He didn't speak for a moment, then leaned back as if revealing a card. I see. Well, if things had gone differently this morning, you might have been working for me. She frowned. What do you mean? He tilted his head. I'm the CEO of Pierce Industries. Silence landed hard. The name clicked like a key turning. Pierce Industries, the very place where she pleaded for one last chance. The man whose life she protected could have hired or refused her with a word. You, she started, but the rest jammed in her throat. You're the CEO. He nodded, watching her with a hint of amusement. Heat and shock shot through her, in equal parts. She'd spent the day mourning a lost door only to learn it had. Been standing open, sitting across from her. She sagged back in her chair. Wow, that's unexpected. He considered her a beat longer, then said, You impressed me today. She barked a quick laugh, still reeling. Impressed you? I thought the company decided I was unreliable for missing a meeting. His expression warmed by a fraction. You weren't unreliable. You made a choice, a rare one. Her heart raced as he leaned forward, voice low but certain. I want to offer you a job. The room seemed to recede. A job? She barely trusted her own hearing. A trial, he said. No standard process. Prove yourself. It was the opportunity she'd been chasing for years, served straight across a linen-draped table. And still doubt nudged. She looked down at her hands. That's generous, she said carefully. But I don't want anything just because I got lucky enough to be in the right place. He didn't seem surprised. If anything, a corner of his mouth lifted like he'd expected her pushback. Then don't take it as a gift, he said. Take it as a challenge. Show you belong. Pressure built in her chest. This could change everything. Was she ready? A week later, Maya stood at the base of the Pierce Tower again, the sun catching on the glass like a second sky. The last time she left here, defeat shadowed her every step. Today she walked in as a temporary hire with something to prove. She set her shoulders and kept her stride even. The receptionist with the sharp cheekbones looked up. Miss Bennett. Maya nodded. Follow me. Mr. Pierce is expecting you. The office she entered was all clean lines, dark wood, glass, a skyline framed like a painting. He stood by the window, hands in his pockets. "You're early," he said, turning. Maya lifted her chin. "Figured I should start right." A flicker of approval crossed his face. He motioned to a chair. She sat, notebook ready for rules and steps. Instead, he leaned on the desk. "Tell me what you want out of this." She didn't hesitate long. "To earn my place," she said. "No favors. No shortcuts." He studied her, then nodded. "Good. No one here will take it easy on you." That was exactly what she wanted. He handed her a folder. 6 weeks. If you excel, you stay. If not, you let the rest hang. She gripped the folder tighter. "I won't give you a reason to let me go." A small spark lit his eyes. "We'll see." From a moment she joined the floor, Maya felt the weight of eyes. The other interns had Ivy League seals on their resumes and last names that opened doors before they knocked. Whispers traveled faster than email. "She's a CEO special case," someone murmured. "Think she earned it?" another replied. Maya ignored it all. She came early, stayed late, took on extra work, and kept quiet when it would have been easy to complain, when a chance came to present projections on a new project. She volunteered even though she could feel a few smirks around the table. She didn't fumble. The room was still for a beat after she finished. At the far end, he sat with arms folded, listening with that calm that made people careful. A brief, satisfied nod. "Solid work, Bennett." It was the first acknowledgement in weeks. Small but powerful. The whispers dimmed after that. The more she worked, the more she noticed him beyond the headlines. He was demanding, yes, but not careless. He missed nothing. When an analyst's numbers were off by a sliver, he found it in seconds. When Maya hesitated over a strategy choice, he didn't hand her the fix. He asked a question that made her find it. It was infuriating and addictive. Now and then, something personal slipped through. One night, long after most lights had gone dark, she passed his open door. "Still here?" he asked, not looking up from his laptop. She held up a stack of files. "Trying to prove I belong." His voice softened a fraction. "You already do." He meant it work. She knew that. Still, her pulse hopped. "Hey." Low thrum began to settle beneath everything. The way his gaze stayed on her a little longer than it should during meetings, the way banter stretched the breath past what was normal, the way the air changed when he was near. She told herself it was admiration, nothing more. It was safe for pretend. Maya pushed it aside and focused harder. But the feeling didn't go away. She caught him watching when he thought she wasn't looking. A brush of contact in the hallway sent static along her skin. Every time she told herself to ask, clear up, end the guessing, she stayed quiet. Better to guard her new footing than topple it with a mistake. Then a major deal buckled without warning. A top client backed out, and the conference room filled with tight voices. He sat at the head, expression carved from calm, mind clearly moving fast. Before she could stop herself, Maya spoke. "What if we restructure the deal?" The room stilled. She was an intern. She wasn't supposed to jump in. His eyes cut to hers. "Explain." She kept her voice steady. "They're afraid of the upfront risk. Shift the terms to a performance-based payout instead of a big initial investment. We carry part of the risk to show we believe in the projections. If it works, we save the deal in trust." A senior exec frowned. "That means taking on risk ourselves." "Yes," Maya said, heartbeat in her throat. "But it also shows faith in our numbers. And the long-term relationship gets stronger." Silence lasted a beat too long. Then his mouth tipped. "That," he said, "is a very good idea." He turned to the team. "Run it. If the numbers hold, we pitch by end of day." They did. The client stayed. Later, when the floor had thinned and the adrenaline faded, he found her in the hallway. "You impressed me today," he said, voice low. She met his eyes, heart thudding. "I did what seemed right." He exhaled like he'd settled something inside himself. "I want you on my team permanently. Not as an intern, as my executive assistant." She froze. It was exactly what she'd wanted. A true role, a seat near the fire. It also tethered her closer to him, and that made everything more complicated. She accepted. How could she not? Work should have clicked back into clean lines after that, but it didn't. There were more late nights, more quiet stretches only they shared, more sparks skimming the edges of normal conversation. She caught him looking and looked away. He brushed past, and she pretended it was nothing. Every time she thought, ask him, name this, she swallowed the words. What if she'd built the whole thing in her head? What if he didn't feel it? One evening, when the office was nearly empty, he paused at her doorway. You should go home, he said. She raised an eyebrow. You should too. A hint of a smile, then a hesitation she had never seen on him. Maya, he said, softer than usual. Her heart thumped. For a second she saw it. Conflict, pull, possibility. Say something, she told herself. Ask him. But the moment slipped. His expression shuddered. See you tomorrow. He walked away, and she sat wondering how long two people could orbit the same feeling and keep pretending they were only working. The unspoken tension didn't fade. It thickened, weaving itself into late emails and quiet knock-knock pauses and an open door. Weeks slid by with the same careful distance. Then everything changed on a night when the city's hum felt softer and the office was almost empty. Maya typed at her desk, the glow of her screen the only light in her corner, when footsteps stopped at her doorway. She looked up. He leaned there, tie loosened, sleeves rolled, an uncommon ease that made him seem more human and, somehow, more dangerous to her resolve. You should go home, she said, but her voice wasn't firm. You should too, he answered. Silence took the room for a long beat. Then he drew a breath and stepped in. I can't keep pretending, he said, voice low and deliberate. Maya went very still. He held, her gaze, the guard in his eyes finally slipping. I tried, he admitted. I told myself keeping distance was right. But the truth is, I don't want distance. Not with you. The world tilted and settled again in a new place. Logan, she began, the name catching in her throat for the first time like something that mattered. Logic screamed to be careful. But the months of stolen glances and unspoken answers flooded back, and caution felt smaller than honesty. I don't either, she whispered. Relief washed over his face, softening the lines she'd come to recognize. He reached for her, and this time she didn't move away. Balancing the personal and professional wasn't simple, but they chose to treat each day like a promise. At work, they were disciplined, no games, no slack. Outside those glass walls, they were the opposite of distant. People notice, of course. Offices notice everything. But results spoke louder than gossip. Maya didn't want to be the woman dating the CEO. She wanted to be the woman who showed up and did the job. And she did. Months rolled on. Seasons turned the city from gold to gray to green again. The partnership they built, his precision, her grit, made them better at everything they touched. A year later, the story that began in rain circled back under a sky full of stars. The rooftop restaurant seemed to float above Manhattan, the skyline cutting shadows in the dark, while candlelight cast a soft glow across their table. Maya laughed, shaking her head. You're acting weird tonight. He smirked. Weird. She waved at the private table, the careful music, the way the city felt far away. Even for you, this is a lot. He exhaled and, for the first time she could remember in a setting like this, looked almost nervous. Logan, she asked gently. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. Her breath stuttered. When he opened it, the ring inside was simple and bright, the kind of beauty that doesn't need a shout. Marry me, he said, voice steady but full. The city fell away. I knew the second you stayed with me that morning, he said, his eyes clear, voice soft. You didn't know who I was, and you stayed anyway. Since then, every day, you've shown me who you are, driven, brilliant, kind. A familiar half-smile touched his mouth. And stubborn. She laughed wetly, chest tightening. I don't want to spend another day pretending I don't need you, he said. Because I do, Maya. In every way. There was only one answer, and it came out like a breath she'd been holding for a year. Yes. He let out a shaky chuckle, stood, and pulled her into a hug that felt like crossing a finish line. The ring slid onto her finger with a soft click, and for a second the whole city seemed to wink back in approval. The skyline shimmered, the candles flickered, and all the hard pieces of their past rearranged into something bright. What began with a small act of kindness on a wet morning became a story neither had planned, but both had quietly hoped for. Their path had been full of risk and choices. Some that cost them the moment but gave them everything later. They learned that the things you're most afraid to lose can lead you exactly where you're meant to be if you just keep stepping forward. It didn't change the truth that had carried her this far. Show up, work hard, do what's right. But now there was another truth beside it. Love that felt like steadiness. Not sparks that fade, but warmth that stays. She still rose early, still triple-checked calendars and numbers, still pushed for better ideas. He still challenged her, still caught errors before they escaped the room, still refused the easy way when the right way was near. They were both who they'd always been, only more certain together. Looking back, Maya could trace a line that connected every moment. The missed cab, the hot pulse of panic at 8:27, the way of a wrist under her fingers, the siren's wail, the cool dismissal at a marble counter, the word admirable wrapped around a no, the antiseptic hallway and a quiet invitation, the linen-draped table where a truth changed shape, the folder for a 6-week trial, the whispers on a carpeted floor, the click of projector and a gnaw at the end of a brave presentation, the slip of a deal and the sentence that saved it, a doorway where his name sounded different in her mouth, a rooftop where yes felt like sunrise. Every step had felt risky, but kindness had been the first step and the truest one. Without it, nothing else would have happened. If you found yourself holding your breath during their journey, at the sidewalk, in the lobby, at the desk, under the candles, that's because chances are real. They cost something. But sometimes saying yes to the right risk gives you back more than you could plan. Maya and Logan learned that the long route, the one with rain and doubt and doing a decent thing even when it hurts, can still get you to the door that matters. And when it opens, you don't have to walk through alone. If this story made your heart feel a little bigger, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Heartline Story for more tales that lift you up and remind you what matters. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.